Done. 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 Okay, can we start with the question?
Yeah, please.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Professor Nupur Rawal. On the behalf of United World School of Business, I take the pleasure of welcoming you all to attend the panel discussion of Budget 2021. Professors from the UWSB, that is Dr. Kishore Bhanusali, Director Academic Administration, Dr. Himanshu Barot, Professor UWSB, Dr. Tushar, Associate Professor UWSB, and Professor Hardik Gandhi, HOD BBA UWSB, will be analyzing the provisions made in the latest budget from the perspectives of different sectors of the economy. Before starting with the panel discussion, I would like to invite Dr. Bhupendra Sharma, sir, Dean UWSB, to share some words with us. Sir,
Thank you, Nupur. So, first of all, I would like to say I'm very excited to listen all what my professors and my dear colleagues are going to share as far as budget is concerned. And second thing, what I would like to admit is that I am a person who never understands the budget. The only thing that I understand from the budget is about the income tax slabs. So, but unfortunately, this time no changes have been made as far as the income tax slab is concerned. So, I do not know what to listen and what to not listen. But definitely, when my brothers, young brothers, are there, so I hope they will make my life a bit easier, and they will be sharing the budget, or they will be analyzing your budget in such a way that a layman person like me is also able to understand it. I'm very excited. I'm feeling honored and privileged into a company of such learned colleagues. Secondly, I would like to say that although we are working together as a team member, so I do not need to welcome you, but even then, I would formally welcome you in the capacity of a dean as a of you because my UWSB students are also there. And when I'm having such a great panel of professors Bhanushali, Himanshu ji, Tushar ji, and Hardik ji, although Hardik ji is not visible to me, and we are very keen to see that how we are going to operate or how we are going to dissect the different provisions that have been made by our minister in the coming budget. And it will not be only beneficial for our student, but I'm sure for we all teachers will be gaining a lot out of this interaction that we are going to have. And without much ado, now I would like to take a leave and I'm going to listen what all you have to say. So now the dice all yours, professors. Please enlighten us with your thoughts. Thank you so much.
thank you so much, sir. Let's start with our panel discussion, starting with Dr. Kishore Bhanushali, sir, Director Academic Administration. Sir,
Uh, Thank you, Nupur ma'am. Thank you, Deependra sir, and my fellow panel member and my dear students. Uh, I'll be talking about general perception of a budget, few things about important aspect of the budget which normally are not talked about much in your mainstream media. And then, as we have discussed, I'll be talking about something related to provision in the budget with reference to education sector. We know that, okay, given the time constraint, four of us, we have decided that we'll speak for around 10 or 12 minutes, and we want to keep certain time, especially for the discussions or addressing the queries that you may have. So to start with, when you talk of this current budget, the current budget has for the first time presented in a situation which is not the regularly expected kind of environment. We all know the pandemic, the kind of life that we have witnessed for around 9 months or so, and this pandemic has adversely affected entire world. World is into kind of a recession situations, and the kind of the economic environment was altogether different. So for a budget making people, the authorities of finance department, chief economic advisors, and all those people, the preparing budget itself was a bigger challenge. And it was like selecting a path. You have two broad paths when you work in this kind of situation. One, you focus on growth budget, and second, you focus on distribution budget. It's like whether you should focus on distribution of cake or pie to the people, or you think about increasing the size of pie itself. And within these two options, the option chosen by present government was growth. So when you look at this overall budget, and you may be witnessing the discussion in the medias, People are talking about this budget do not have anything for the Aam Aadmi or poor people. Nothing is of that sort is there, precisely because government chose a path of a growth path. So they said focus on the growth, rest will fall in line. Now whether it is a right or wrong approach, that time will tell us. Time will tell us. But there are few things which need to be unfolded with reference to this budget. So when you talk of the this budget is primarily focusing on certain aspect. When you look at the budget in totality, you feel like budget is more focusing on infrastructure. Okay, there is some sort of focus on banking sector or financial aspect, and then some focus on the health aspect. Okay, and infrastructure sector is the major sector which this government has selected to give a boost to. Uh, Bhupinder sir, can you mute yourself? Bhupinder sir. Yeah, thank you. So government is giving about booster dose to an economy by investing a lot of money on infrastructure sectors. And then when government is doing that, the idea is when money is pumped into infrastructure sector, whether road, railway, energy, power, and all those sectors, it will generate a demand in the market. Demand in the market, and that demand creates a job, and then cycle continues. Okay, the other option that probably as an economist I was suggesting was focusing more on uh, direct income generating activities, because when you look at the budget, the major challenges we are facing was GDP growth was declining. We said April June quarter minus 24. Okay, again we are talking about negative growth. Next year maybe positive growth. Those are the numbers that are coming to it. So economic growth was a major challenge. Second, uh, employment was a bigger challenge. Third bigger challenge from economic perspective was lack of consumption demand. So I was expecting something which boosts the demand in the market, and that boosting could have been done by taking certain measures which directly give money to the public, like investing more on rural development, investing more on Manrega kind of schemes, investing more on poverty elevation kind of things. So that could have done maybe better than what government has thought of it. But still, as we said, something has been declared. Government chose a path of focusing more on the growth rather than a distribution aspect. So I'll be talking about few things which has to be looked out. So I'm just sharing my screen where I've created uh, a few things, not in the detail, given the time limit. Uh, yeah. So I hope screen is visible to you all. These are the 6 pillars that budget was talking about: health and well-being, physical and financial capital infrastructure, inclusive development for inspirational India, rejuvenating human capital, innovation and R&D, minimum government and maximum governance. Now, when finance minister was talking about presenting the budget, the presentation started with talking about this 6 pillar. And later on, when you look at the entire budget document, end of the presentation, looking at the budget document, you feel like many of the pillars are just talked about. Just talked about. There was not much about this. Say health and well-being, something most widely talked about. They said on the health sector, the budget has been increased by 137%. But when you look at the data, nothing of that sort has happened. It's just a number gimmick. I'll share actual data with you as well. Major focus was only on the second pillar, financial capital and infrastructure. Even for the inclusive development aspect, nothing much is there. For human capital, focus was supposed to be on education and focus would be supposed to be on health. Because on Human Development Index 2020, we are at 131 to be precise, 131 position out of 180 odd countries. So it was a time to work upon human capital, which probably is the missing part. Research and development, nothing much is there except 10,000 this innovation fund where they allocated 60,000 crore to be spent over a period of 5 years. So nothing much is there. Governance, minimum governance, maximum governance is a motto that government is talking about since last so many years. But when you look at the ground realities, nothing of that set is happening into. Now, this is something I will not be talking much about detail because that will not take much time. Something to be highlighted here is this aspect. Something to be highlighted here is this aspect. This is the government revenue aspect. The total budget size is nearly 35 lakh crore. And you may feel like 35 lakh crore is a good number, government is spending an extra amount. But when you compare the budget size of last year, okay, it has increased just by around 4%. Okay, and even the last year, when you compare, every year budget size goes up by around 4 to 5%. This year again did the same thing. So there was nothing extra in that budget that which government is spending. But the striking part here is borrowing and other liabilities. 36% of the income out of 35 lakh crore is by borrowing. Now, when you borrow this much of money, there is going to be a lot of interest burden and repayment burden. No guidelines is given in terms of how government is planning to repay this. Okay, that's the biggest thing has to be looked into. A rest of the number, when you look at whether it's custom duties or income from corporate tax or excise duty, more or less is the same number which we have witnessed last year also. But this borrowing is something which a major cause of concern, and this has been increasing over a period of time. And outcome of this borrowing over a period of time can be witnessed in expenditure pattern of this budget itself. When you look at this expenditure pattern, okay, the something to be looked out here is this part, the highlighted one, 20%. This 20% is interest payment. So it means out of that 34,800 or 35 lakh crore that government is spending, 20% of that money goes for interest payment. This interest payment burden is going to increase further unless we have some plan to use this money or to repay this money. And when you look at the other aspect of that, centrally sponsored scheme is just a 14%. So whatever government has to play, pension is something which they have to spend. Okay, subsidy is not going to help us out, defense is not going to help us out. Only options available to me is central sector scheme. So whatever scheme you talk about, Atmanirbhar Bharat or Atmanirbhar Health Mission, whatever you call, mostly that budget is only 14%. And if you add this centrally sponsored 9%, okay, so only this 23% of the budget is really for the cause which is going to affect the people in terms of their livelihood. That is something which should be cause of concern for all of us. Second thing most widely talked about in economic survey as well as budget was we were talking about V-shaped recovery. Now this is a graph that I've taken directly copy pasted from budget document itself. We talk of V-shaped recovery, and this graph indicate that V-shaped recovery. Graph indicate the V-shaped recovery that okay, we are here and probably will be reaching that 11.5% growth. Okay, but here something is to be done that this recovery is not particular to Indian situation. Okay, now this other graph, when you look at this is the world. So world GDP is again facing the same situation, V-shaped recovery. Okay, Euro area, Asian economies, all. So whether you talk of world or Asia, everybody is facing the same kind of recovery. So that V-shaped recovery is not something which is unique to India, where we are going to do something extra. Rather, more important to be looked out is when you talk of this recovery, okay, we are at this point 2020 budget estimate, which is lowest among all the group that we are comparing in. So the bottom of India is at lower side when you compare with. So we went down further below the average level when you talk of world or Euro kind of area that we're talking about. So V-shaped recovery is not the right thing to be happy about. Rather, the kind of steps budget has taken, rather than V-shaped recovery, we are moving towards recovery shape called K-shaped recovery. Now this K-shaped recovery is some of the sector will perform well. So the budget reaction, stock market reaction to budget, when you look at those a kind of script that went up, is primarily the banking sectors, infrastructure sector, and pharma sectors. So the kind of budget that is presented will result into K-shaped recovery, where there are few sectors which will grow, and there are other sectors which continue to grow down, and this will create challenges in the later period that we have. So rather than V-shaped recovery as an economics, I'll suggest is V-shaped recovery is not unique to India, and the kind of budget that we are into, we may end up with K-shaped recovery, and then again later on we need a special provision for this kind of sectors which are not given enough emphasis in the budget. That's the growth budget, so not getting into this detail. Now, when you talk of health sector, people are talking about health budget, and something that government has talked about, that because of COVID, health infrastructure is supposed to be increased, and government said we are spending more than 2 lakh crore on health infrastructure. Now, first, let us clear, it is 2 lakh out of 35 lakh, so not that a good number, but this is not the real number. When you look at the allocation to health and education department, let me show you that slide as well. Okay, I hope it will be visible to you. I'm just, yeah, this is Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. I'm just giving you a number. This is Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and look at the total allocation to that ministry. It is just 73 or 900, 74,000 crore. It is not 2 lakh crore. So Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has been allocated just 73 lakh crore. And when you talk of this 2 lakh crore, it includes budget allocated to other departments also. Ministry of along with Ministry of Health is water and sanitation and total. So there is no additional increase in the budget even allocated for health. 35,000 crore allocated for vaccine is again part of this. Bad bank, I think Himanshu sir will be talking about that, so I will not get into much detail about that bad bank aspect which government is talking about. One thing that probably need to understand is the disinvestment part. This year, government has proposed 1.75 thousand crore. So 1,75,000 crores are proposed for disinvestment. If you look at the historical data, none of the year we have achieved the target of disinvestment. Every year, target fall short of the requirement. Even the last year, the target was not achieved. So this 1.75 lakh crore seems not so genuine to be possible. And for that, government has proposed something like LIC, IPO in LIC, insurance, selling up of 2 public sector bank, 1 general insurance, disinvestment. But the target seems unrealistic to me. Fiscal deficit target, as per budget, FRBM Act, Budget Responsibility, Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act, this fiscal deficit is supposed to be at 3%. Because of COVID, it went up to 6.8%. Government is planning to estimate to be 9.5%, but revised estimate for this year will take it to much beyond level, and this is the major cause of concern. Bringing it back to 3% level is going to be a bigger challenge for the government. Something need to be done, and what you are doing is you are creating fiscal deficit, okay, at the cost of human welfare. That is the biggest cause of concern, which personally I'm not happy about. Health sector, Tushar sir is going to talk about, so I'll skip that part again. Yeah, coming to education sector, I was literally looking at a budget from an education perspective, but when I looked at, personally I was unhappy because there was nothing for education. New education policy announced by government has mandated that 6% should be for education. And in total budget, education sector, education, health together are not touching upon 6%. So education is getting around 2.5% of the total budget, which is a cause of concern. Secondly, within that education sector, major focus is on capital investment, building up new infrastructure. Not much focus is given on quality of education. Okay, so in strengthening of schools, creating 100 new scenic schools. And in terms of higher education, government has talked about Higher Education Commission of India. This is a long awaited demand, and discussion is truly going on. There we said instead of multiple regulators, we'll have higher education commission. But of course, we don't know how far government is going to take it up in terms of this. Creating central university in Leh and Ladakh, grant in some of the cities, which were not that way impressive in terms of creating a real impact on the level of education in Indian scenario. There were few provision related to education, but most of them were for not general education. They were primarily for a scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. Okay, which again need to be looked into when you really understand the impact or budget provision in the education. Yeah, skilling was something which was there but not up to the mark, because when you think of India becoming a superpower, or we want to become a production hub, that skilled manpower is something which is required. Budget has not allocated much of the finance, except 3,000 crore for existing apprenticeship training scheme. So there was nothing there in the budget for the skill development. Rather, Ministry, Nirmala Sitharaman could have kept certain specific incentive provision for skill development and skill training institute, which were utterly missing in the budget side. Okay, in terms of allocation in education sector, only 93,000 crore has been allocated. Only 93,000 has been allocated for the education, which is not a required number. Education sector should be allocated much more budget than what is required. This is the same number probably that we had last year. Rather, if you compare the actual number, it shows a decline. So education budget has rather declined. Okay, so that is again a cause of concern for me as well. So that way, I was not happy with the education budget allocated by government. Overall, when I look at the budget, it looked like government is planning that this year will focus more on the growth, and the growth will come by spending more money on infrastructure. But then, in real sense, growth will not come by spending more or investing more. Growth will come by generating a demand, and that demand comes from the customers, and the customer demand comes when they have money in the pocket. So most of the developed economy of the world, what they did, they have followed a direct cash transfer. Whether you talk of US, you talk of Australia, you talk of Canada, you talk of UK, there was a direct cash transfer. Something like that could have been done for India to generate the demand, and demand itself create an environment where production takes place, employment generation takes place. So still, for me, it was not so good budget as an economist. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Over to you, Nupana.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for this. Next, we have on our panel discussion Dr. Himanshu Barot, sir, Professor UWSB. He'll be giving the next discussion on the budget. Yes.
Thank you, Nupur ma'am. As sir has said, this budget is purely focused on the infrastructure development, and the government is more towards rather than the other sectors. So I'm going to discuss about what about into the banking and the financial sectors. Right? There is no much about banking and financial sector. Even we can say that other than infrastructure sectors in this current budget. Right? So this is the biggest challenge towards the government regarding and the entire financial sector is not happy in this case, because the fiscal deficits, which bags 9.5% of the GDP, and it is more than expectations. Right? So that is one of the biggest challenge. So the various macro factors Kishore sir has discussed. So I'm not focusing over there, but let's focus on the first is development of the financial institutions. Now into this particular case, development of financial institutions, it is an agencies which is financing to the infrastructure project, purely focused on the infrastructure projects, and that area of the national importance, but may or may not we can say that it is confirmed the commercial returns, right? So in most cases, these agencies are governed by the government and borrowings enjoy the comfort of the government guarantees. So here the government is looking to put around 20,000 crore rupees as a capital base into the establishing the development of financial institutions and another landings within the 3 years around 5 lakh, 5 lakh crores in next 3 years. Right. Through the debt financing, we can say that infrastructure investment trust and the real estate trust. These all things are really good if it is properly worked. But the thing is, okay, we have seen that if we are returned to the past, the ICICI, it is in original form when the development of the financial institutions and even IDBI were that. But later on, what happened? This development of financial institutions into the universal bank as it was perceived that they need access to the public deposits. So if you are diverting this particular concepts, and now if we all are there having idea about this IDBI is also going to be privatized, right? So if you are not properly stick with this particular area, there are around 10 different institutions already working into this particular area, into the different sectors, CDB or the NABARD, when we are talking about the rural development and agriculture development is concerned, right? So the properly focus, the whichever the institutions you are establishing, it should be properly focused for the development. So the development of financial institutions is a good thing, even if it is worked properly and in right directions. The another thing I'm looking to discuss here, the stress assets, and this is the biggest challenge in this COVID-19 situations or this pandemic situations. Right. So bank were already weakened by 2 year folds, showdown lending crisis, are now struggling with one of the worst bad loan ratios among the major nations. So the Reserve Bank of India expect non-performing assets will rise to 13.5% of the total advances by the end of September from 7.5% a year ago. So according to this particular, this reports has been given by the financial stabilities in last month only. So it is a worse situation. If it will be continue, then it will create the worst situations into the banking sector, and it is worse since 1999 even. Right? So this is the biggest challenge in front of the banking sector. In this case, if it is properly worked, how to manage these stress assets. So the banking sector has been because of heard of these COVID-19 pandemic situations, especially. So the several aspects we can say that to endorse the bad bank, where the resourcer was talking about the bad bank. So this bad bank idea is not bad; it is good even. But the government has planned to pumps 200 billion rupees into the banking sector. But if it is comparing this amounts, even the last year it was 70,000 crores. Uh, Even before that it was 1 lakh crores. But expected more than 400 billion into these years, but it is not there. So in this case, it is considered as a bad bank. How to establish this bad bank and what is the actually the role of bad bank? So this concept is in many cases the people are not aware what actually the role of the bad bank is. Right? So this bank is set up to buy the bad loans from the other illiquid holdings of the another financial institutions, and the entity holding significant non-performing assets will sell to other holdings to the bad bank, and bad bank which is lower than the discounted price from the existing institutions. So the in current situations, why the banking sector is happy over there in some cases, because they are selling these loans to the bad bank at the discounting rate, and this headache to be passed on to the bad bank, and bad bank will recover. But it is also one of the challenging tasks over there. It up to what extent it will be success, because ultimately this trace assets and the creating bad bank or the establishing bad bank, it is just cleaning the bank balance sheets, right? So this approach is just cleaning the bank balance sheets, and we are finding the big defaulters into the market. Now, how you are tackle with these defaulters? So just whitewashing from this balance sheet is not the solutions. But ultimately, if you are passing, banking sector is passing this bad bank bad loans or the NPAs to the bad bank. So currently, if we are talking the NPA in the situations as we have discussed, it 15 lakh crores, the total stress into the NPA is concerned, and it is because of this particular current situations. Okay, the presence framework of this COVID-19, the government also given the and the uh, Supreme Court also given the some relaxations to pay or the delay into the payments of the your home loan or the other EMIs, right? So that also, and the people those face the challenges of the generating the incomes, and they are unable to pay the dues on time, or they are not able to even paying that dues at all, right? So that is also creating the non-performing assets during this pandemic situations. So in fact, already this code is working. If we are talking about, it is not a new idea, but in 1997, in sorry, Economic Survey 2017, there is already insolvency and bankruptcy code is working. But this idle of bad loans, but recovery rate is not higher. Even after this code has been established by the government, the recovery rate was not as per the satisfactions level. Right? So the current framework of bankruptcy code is not yielding a good value for the bank, but expecting that if the many assets sell, why it is there? Many assets has been sold out into the market at a cheaper price, and the banks were not able to generate even their own dues. Right? They are unable to get the funds at proper price. So that was the challenge. So the other challenge for the governments into the bad bank, if there is no room for using the taxpayers' money for setting the bad bank, right? So it is not utilizing the taxpayer monies. The capital should come from the private funds, and there are already global distress funds interest into the India. Right? So there are also private equity players which are government should rope in. So government of the bad bank has to be the professional, right? The bad bank should not become the platform for the bankers on deputations, or we can say the post-retirement job for the bankers. So there should be a industry expertise. What they have to do, they have to properly manage these particular systems if they are actually looking to work on this particular concept. When we are talking about the non-banking financial companies, and this is also one of the biggest challenge for, because many non-banking financial companies came into the pictures before this pandemic event. After this particular problems due to this COVID-19 pandemic situations, loan default have been rising, because non-banking financial institutions generally we are focusing on targeting the rural sector or the small income groups and all, right? So they are generally unable to recover the funds due to this pandemic situations and the economic crisis in this particular sector. So the NBFC wanted to limits to be lowered so that they quick actions against the defaulters. So according to the report, the pre-budget, what happened? The meeting with the even into the finance ministry panels, okay, industry development represented, yeah, how to tackle these defaulters into the non-banking financial companies. So the government has also proposed this about with the securitizations and reconstructions of the financial assets and enforcement of Securities Interest Act. Now, in this case, the minimum size of the NBFC is to be considered 100 crores, and the minimum loan size eligible for debt recovery under the this particular act is proposed to be reduced from the existing level is 50 lakh. Now it is 50 lakhs to the 20 lakhs. So if the up to the 20 lakhs and there is disputable matter that acts according to the act, they can sort out the problems. They are selling the assets of the defaulters into the market and they can recover it. But if it is more than 20 lakhs, which is existing 50 lakhs, if more than 20 lakhs, then now you have to go with the civil cases, right? And it takes time. So that is another case. Okay, maybe this process. So non-banking financial, if they are up to the 20 lakhs, there is no issue. But the cases of the defaulters more than 20 lakhs, then they have to approach to the for the civil court and the civil cases, and it takes times to recover the funds. So ultimately, your objective is to recover the fast recovery of the defaulters from the market. Now, if rather than the just focus on the how to recover the funds from the defaulters, if you are just relaxed, so if just observe that into the market, who are taking the 20 lakhs loans? Those who are under the small categories of the investors, those who are looking to invest or for the other purpose even. But if you are targeting the 50 lakhs rupees loans to be taken from the non-banking financial institutions, generally they are the business persons. It is not a small amount. So think on that. If those people are just getting the benefits, the civil courts will be civil cases will be done, and it will be takes time. So that is they are not aware. They are not very much taking as a serious case over there. फिर देखा जाएगा जो भी होगा later on, right? In cases, but those who are middle group, they are facing the challenge in such case, as per my view, right? Now the public sector banking disinvestment, as sir has said that they proposed to strategically divest stakes in two public sector banks other than the IDBI bank, right? So part of the disinvestment target, so as sir has said, it's a 1.75 lakh crore rupees. It is not a small amounts, and it is very difficult to raise these targets of the. So the disinvestment process to be done by the government, even this 80,000 crores in next 2 months they have target, but it is biggest challenge with the government. It is not a small amount. It is not a everyone's cup of tea. Okay, once you approach to the market and you can recover this 80,000 crore rupees at a point of time within the short period of time, it is very biggest challenge for the in front of the government to raise these funds from the market, right? So after completing this mega merger in 2019, so the banking sector, the last state bank, 12 from the 27s, earlier 27s back were, now it is a 12 banks. So there is a restructuring we are finding into the banking sectors even. And so government, so the next, as sir has said about the one more things about IPO of the this life insurance corporations, means government is also looking to sell out their own stakes from the life insurance corporations of India, right? And they want to recover the funds over there. They want to collect the funds which can be utilized for the development of the other projects. The another is government opens the exit route for the stressed Indian insurance companies, right? So insurance companies are from where the FDIs increased from 49% to the 74%. Now this stake has been increased definitely, but one side, if you are talking about the Atmanirbhar Bharat, now you are also going to be depends on the someone else. So what about the concept of the Atmanirbhar Bharat? Definitely, everyone is wherever we are finding that there should be a as per the global scenario, we are expecting the different angles investment, whether for FDI or FII. Definitely it would be there, but there should be some limitations. The purpose, what should be the purpose behind this FDI's increase from 49 to the 74%? How it will be beneficial? So those who are already stressed into the insurance sectors, and they face the challenge because it's, see, the insurance is a risk management tool. It is one of the key criteria for the government. If you are diversing this concept, so if currently, if I am talking about this, what is the penetrations into the Indian insurance market is only 2.84% penetrations. Now, life and non-life both. So 2.82% penetrations if you are finding into the insurance. So it is, we can say it is a very significantly lower in the global average of 3.35% and others. Global 3.35, India is 8.85. So if you are looking to make a new products into the market which will be beneficial for the public, so definitely along with this accepting the FDIs and increasing the FDI, you can also structure the products. When how you can penetrate, how to increase the penetrations? It is only possible if the people are able to afford the cost of the products. And how to increase these affordabilities? You have to also give some incentives over there, but the government is also, no doubt, the government is also giving the benefits of the 5 lakh rupees individually into the Ma card, Ma Amrutam card, which has been launched by the government. That would be fine, right? Into the Pradhan Mantri 2 lakh rupees life insurance coverage to be given, that is also okay. But those people, those who are looking to take the health insurance, 5 lakh rupees health insurance, they have to bear the higher cost. And it is, maybe it is impact to be generated to the GST aspects also. The cost is higher, 18% GST, that is also major impact. So one side, if you are talking about, the government is looking to provide the risk coverage to the each and every people. So you should have to focus on how to make it more affordable to each and everyone. Reduce the GST, make it comfortable for each and everyone, they are able to afford the cost, right? And even many products you can find into the term insurance plan as concerned. The other thing is that when the term insurance plan, this is one of the pure term insurance which is cheapest products available into the life insurance products, right? And it is very good products when we are talking about the insurance is concerned about your life. So this term insurance plan, it should be how to be incentivized. So the government also think on these cases. It is putting into the ATC, as yesterday we also discussed about the same. It should be, rather than just putting into the ATC, just pass on to the ATD aspects what actually the health insurance is. Give the separate incentives to the tax the peoples. So in both the cases, the government will also increase the penetrations what they are expecting, and the people are also able, because it's a cheaper products in comparison to the other products, traditional insurance plan. So that would be the beneficials. You can increase the penetrations into the life insurance products. So the taxpayers are also focused on this area. So in such way, they can also think on, rather just increasing the FDI is not always the solutions of your objectives, right? So the new structures has been given into the insurance, around 23 private insurance and 28 private general and health insurance available into the work. That would be getting the benefits over here. The another thing is fintech hub of the gift cities to open Indian. So the promotions of digital payments and the gift cities, right? So if this platform is operated into the Gujarat Gandhinagar, so GIFT Cities provides a subsidized office spaces and residential apartment and schools, which attracts the talent and optimize the businesses. So it's a special investment zone. The government has decided those who are establishing the business into the particular area, they will give the subsidized or the tax benefits over there. Now the incentives for the digital economy. This particular, if we have observed that, okay, even we all have done this practice, a union budget as per focus on the promoting and developing the financial technology, fintech spaces to COVID-19 pandemic, and lead to the tremendous growth for the adoptions just practices, such practices on the digital platforms. So around earmark of the 1,500 crores of the investment to be done for the digitalizations of the payment systems. So budget failed, but the another side, the budget is also failed to focus on the removal of the alternate to zero merchant discount rate, MDR. Now this is MDR is one of the most influencing factors to promote the digital payment. Now, how it is there? This MDR is what? MDR is means merchant has to pay the some amounts, the some percentage of the turnover to the bank. So if it's cost to and it comes to the zero, then they are also promoting these particular platforms because ultimately once they are reaching this target and they are charging this cost from the customers also somewhere. If you are focusing on some small stores available, provision stores are available. If you want to access the card uh, through the digital payments, they are charging the cost in these cases, right? Okay, 2% charges we are charged, or 1% to be there. So ultimately this cost to be bear by the customer. So if you want to promote the digital payments, you have to also focus on the MDR. Another move is taken by the government, and it is good in tax audit is concerned. Right? This is the positively work. It is from this tax audit limit is 10 crores from the current for rupees 5 crore, and this is good move will reduce the compliance burden on the companies. Right? So which encourage the digital payments on other side. So which reduce the compliance at several levels, lesser handling of the case or the faster reconciliations of the books of accounts, better cash flow for the businesses and all. So in this way, it is better. Then the one country, one securities code. This is the good concept even. Okay, rather than approaching to the different codes and on the same platform, financial platform, it should be a single code, single act to be applied according to the requirement. So the budgetary proposed to introduce a unified securities market code, which help to eliminate overlapping and we can say the outdated laws, because there are many overlappings available into the different codes. So it was a difficult task for the even court matter, because there are the same different codes are giving the same aspects. So this situations is created by civil cases and court matters, and it's make a problems for the getting the solutions from the court, right? So in this case, government intends to consolidate the SEBI Act, Depository Act, Securities Contract Regulations Act, Government Securities Act. Uh, then how this the particular the codes will be work. So the government proposing merge this important act in this case. Okay, the details of proposals are awaited, and the overlapping to be removed from the government. So if one code will be applicable, so it not only limited to the particular platforms. We can say the SEBI or whichever the platforms to be established under the single code. But it would be for the court also, Supreme Court also. So they have also, so as per the those who are lawyers, they have also accepted. Okay, it is better for it to the Supreme Court or the court matter cases.
Manshu sir.
Yes, madam.
Sorry to interrupt.
This is the last one.
Sir, we are running with short of time. It's already 3:30.
So this is the last one.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sorry for.
It's okay. So in this case, the consolidations of the earlier the code was available into the as per the National Financial Reporting Authorities, right? So that would be beneficial for this particular financial market, as I said, right? So this is up to the not financial miscellaneous things are applicable, but it is not that much impacted in this case, other than these major aspects into the finance and the banking. Right? Thank you. Over to you, madam. Nupur ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. For the next panel discussion, I would like to invite Dr. Tushar, sir, Associate Professor at UWSP. Sir, goes to you. Sir, you are on. You're not. Yes, sir.
Okay, for some time my system was hanged. Thank you, Nupur madam. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You can continue.
Yeah. Uh, okay, I'll be talking on behalf of this health and infrastructure sector as announced by our finance minister. Uh, this budget is purely a budget on health and infrastructure. So I'm just sharing my screen. And if I will look at what if I'll just compare what Kishore sir had said regarding in this budget there is uh, like very few for development or growth. Uh, I will certainly not agree completely, but yeah, to some extent I can agree with that. In that way, I can say this budget has actually looked for Pareto optimality. Okay. So, in that way, they have not taken much from the pocket of the taxpayer, though they are increasing the. So, they have tried to finance it from the debt. Okay. By taking debt only, they will finance it. I think my screen is shared. Okay. So I will focus on the health and infrastructure side. Yes. So I was saying that this budget has not taken much from the taxpayers' pocket this time. And again, even there is a different school of thought. If that is not happening, how the development will happen? Okay, if the money will be taken on a debt basis, then the future generation will be repaying the interest along with the principal. So in future, the growth will be hampered. So first of all, again, I have also listened to some of the opposition leaders who are like from Congress or any other party. They have also said that there is a long-term plan in this budget, but there is nothing in short-term because the country is right now fighting against this COVID. Okay, we are still in the grip of COVID, and here the budget has allocated very less fund if we compare the COVID situation. I agree, but we have not taken too much, we have not gone for a too much fiscal deficit. Okay, the fiscal deficit that we have targeted again to come back in next 3 to 4 years means in this BJP government particularly they have targeted to bring it down to 5%. Okay, they have not thought to make it again 3% the budget deficit, sorry, fiscal deficit, maybe in the year 2024. So I think very practically they have thought. And when we look at all these different the expenditure, definitely they have a huge provision for health. In this case, they have increased the expenditure by 170%. 170%. Okay. So we can see the budget provision in 2020-21 that was 94,000 crores. I'm just ignoring the other numbers. And here in 2021-22, it is 2,23,000 crores. So there is a hike by 170%. Okay, so this will be done through Atmanirbhar Swasth Bharat Yojana. So Atmanirbhar Swasth Bharat Yojana, because we are now thinking the infrastructure in two ways. One is called as your social infrastructure, and the other one is called as your physical infrastructure. So this health, education, all these are coming under social infrastructure. So this will definitely give a result in the long run, not in the short run, but in the long run it will give the result. But right now in this activity to build the social infrastructure, basically those poor people will be employed. They will be getting employment maybe in the rural area or all in those backward areas particularly. These people will be getting employment, and this will definitely increase the income consumption. In India, we have, thank God, we have a very good marginal propensity to consume. Means whatever money we're getting, whatever income we're getting, a large part of it is generally consumed. So when we'll look at the rural area, when their income will increase, a large part will be consumed. So right now we are actually facing a problem from the consumption side, because the country has given enough during the COVID situation, given enough to the poor to consume, but still the consumption is not happening. So there is something to happen, and maybe when Kishore sir said, why not directly transfer the cash to the poor people so that they will consume? Yes, we have also, if you look at the COVID situation at that time, some cash transfer has happened, but still public is in that pessimistic mood that who knows what will happen. So whatever cash they have got, they are not coming to consume that. They are still depending on government. So I think mentally we are not prepared to get the benefit of direct cash transfer. I think so. So, Kishore sir, I am not directly saying no to it, but yeah, to some extent we can go by partially direct cash transfer and partially that if in like just like Ujjwala Yojana, we have provided the gas cylinder gas connection to these poor people at that time. Again, the food grains were provided to them during that time. So I think partially whatever is going on at that time, it is okay. And maybe in 1 or 2 years in future we can go for direct cash transfer. That will be okay when the people will have some optimistic idea about the economy. Uh, Again, if we look at this COVID-19, to fight with COVID-19, there's a provision of 35,000 crore. I will not be going to say what are the provisions in this, but I will definitely say what are the activities they are going to do. Okay, so the vaccines that will be provided, as well as there is another vaccine. This COVID vaccine will be provided. Another vaccine, there is a pneumococcal, that will be a vaccine provided to the kids particularly, because every year 50,000 children, they generally see the death because of this particular disease, pneumonia. So for that they will be getting this vaccine. And in the health system, again we have different plans, particularly national institution for one health plan that will be formed. Then regional institutes for virology for this disease viral. For that we have some plans. Then mobile hospitals will also be opened. So these are the different plans. So quickly, because I know there's a time constant, so I'll quickly go for the other provisions. And here we have we have thought for regional research platform, and this is a main. I can say this is a very good connection with the WHO, so that we can get a better health facility in future. And Mission Poshan, because nutrition problem is happening in India. Kuposhan, there's an advertisement generally given by Amir Khan, who is like particularly the brand ambassador for nutrition. So again coming to the water supply. So here the budget has a provision for universal coverage of water supply, and in this case, in next 5 years, we want to cover completely the whole country will be supplied the tap water. Okay, so that was the target. In Swachh Bharat, Swasth Bharat. Okay, so again for health, you can say mission for health. This is another expenditure which is gone for the Swachh Bharat program. So these are the different way they are spending. Again, clean air. Most of the day, again, the main reason is our polluted air. Okay, in Delhi or Gurgaon side, there is a you can say the air is completely polluted. So we are struggling to get a clean air. Now, there is a provision for air pollution, for checking the air pollution and to rectify it, to fix the problem of air pollution. And here the provision is that you can see scrapping policy is in that way related to the health mission. Because that's why I have just taken the scrapping policy of vehicles in the health mission, though it will be again coming under our development of the automobile sector, but still it is applicable to health also. How? Because the old vehicles, they generally emit carbon dioxide or they pollute the air. So there is a provision for phasing out these vehicles from the road. Okay, so there are so many rules and regulation on that. Similarly, if we look at the physical infrastructure, particularly the government has now tried to link the companies with the performance they are doing. Okay, so there will be production linked incentive, and the different sectors, different organizations or manufacturing units, they will be identified based on their production activity. So first of all, the quality standard can be increased because production linked incentive is there. Quality standard will increase. And here I want to say how much we want to get rid of Chinese products, or from China particularly. China will compel us to follow it. Okay, so why I'm saying, I'll come to that point. Why I'm saying, but we have gone for this quality product as we are earlier. We have gone by Chinese products, so we have also seen how the economy is getting affected by the low priced Chinese products. Okay, so we are now looking at the Atmanirbhar Bharat. So in this case, we will try to improve quality and decrease the cost, because production linked incentive means we'll go for large scale production. We'll go for large scale production, and in large scale production, definitely cost will be also reduced to some extent. Uh, that is the Chinese way of producing, though will not compromise the quality. Then so global supply chain also will go for global supply chain. It means that if we'll go for a very large scale production, we'll not look at the domestic area only. We have to think about the foreign countries so that we can also sell them in a foreign area, and that's why our huge production will not be overproduction. Okay, it will be massed because of the sorry, it will be mass because of the exports particularly. So the young youth will be getting some jobs because of this large scale production. Then textiles. Here, our Prime Minister's favorite word, that is Mitro. Mega investment textile parks, but I don't know why the finance minister had given a name short form to it, Mitra. Okay, so so this is also one program by which 7 textile parks will be created in different areas of the country. Okay, so this will also follow the Chinese system, because China has Chinese as well as Bangladesh system. They have this mega textile parks particularly in their country to promote the textiles, and we know in textile also Bangladesh is doing very well. Uh, then okay, next is my infrastructure side. So gradually we are coming to the physical infrastructure from the health infrastructure. So we have said about textile. Now we want to go for this NIP. Now what is NIP? That is National Infrastructure Pipeline. Okay, earlier 6,835 projects were there, but now we have extended or expanded the number of projects to 7,400. Okay, and this NIP has so many different you can say methods to achieve these projects. There is also a good amount of provision in this NIP. Then coming to monetizing the assets. See, as we are facing going to face a fiscal deficit of 9.5% as it is targeted at this time. It is a very huge amount of fiscal deficit. Let me tell what will be the outcome of this fiscal deficit. When government spends more than how much it earns, okay, government's earning is happening generally from tax side. And expenditure, whatever government expenditure is happening, that is in all these figures you have seen there is some government expenditures. So when the government expenditure happens, the investment happens. This is called autonomous investment. And with this investment, generally the income generation happens. Employment and income generation happens. And with increase in income, consumption happens. That's a theoretical, you can say, a model of your economy. But when government takes tax, definitely a part of the income is reduced. So if tax is increased, then income reduces. So there is less to consume. So consumption will be affected. Now this time what happened? Government has increased the fiscal deficit by 9.5%, by which the government consumption increased, but government has not charged any extra tax. So no, as there is no extra tax, definitely for that reason, the consumption from the tax side is not decreasing. Rather, from the government expenditure side, the consumption is increasing. But when we will go for consumption, we will definitely give the indirect tax. So government is very much hopeful about the indirect tax. As we said, as we have already seen in this budget, it has not in budget, but in the economic survey report, it has shown that in the last January month only, it had got a very good amount of GST. So GST collection is increasing. Okay. Uh, though there is a pandemic situation, but still GST collection is increasing. So if consumption is increasing, indirectly the indirect tax will be collected more and more. So government is hopeful in that way, though government has not said that we will be expecting a huge indirect tax collection. Otherwise, the opposition will definitely yeah, start so many things. You know better. Okay, so here the government has planned to sell out some assets. Okay, so here the roads, from the roads it will collect the toll, and the toll collection will be transferred to NHII. Okay, so it is expecting that 5,000 crore will be collected from that. Similarly, that your power grid corporation of in of uh, your transmission, electricity transmission particularly. I just could not recall the full form of but this is for power grid corporation. So from that it will collect 7,000 crore. Okay. Similarly, it will sell some, I think, airports that will monetize. So it will collect so much of money to tackle that much of deficit. Okay. So increase in capital budget also, which will the long run benefit to the country. Then roads and highway infrastructure. So here I can say that Bharatmala Pariyojana. Bharatmala Pariyojana is a road transportation network. Uh, I can show it with the graph, sorry, with the map. You can see it is starting from this Rajkot of Gujarat, and it goes to Srinagar, and then from Srinagar uh, through Uttar Pradesh, particularly Lucknow, all this area, it goes to the northeast part also in Arunachal Pradesh as well as in Mizoram. Okay, to all this area it is touching. So even the northeast part, people cannot say that there is no development program is happening in their area. So these are the different activities that is happening. Also, there is a Sagar Yojana. Okay, in Sagar Yojana, you can see the south part of this Western Ghat, particularly Eastern Ghat. All these are connected through a Sagar Yojana. Okay, so these are the different corridor program that the government is doing, and particularly in this pandemic situation, they have started it, and you can see all these details here. I'm just going ahead. So railway infrastructure, when we have spent a lot in road transportation, we cannot ignore railway. In railway also, there are different projects which are coming. It is 100% electrification by the end of 2023. Particularly for the broad gauge routes, and then Then it will also it has also announced the uh, metro facility, railway facility. Okay. And making India strategy. In making India strategy, the railway products will be created, like the coach productions, or maybe the rail productions. All this will happen in PPP mode. And for that also, you can see 263 kilometers of eastern DFC to be taken off in PPP mode in this particular year. Okay, and here the East Coast corridor from Kharagpur to Vijayawada, East-West corridor Bhojapal to Kharagpur. So these are the different railway infrastructure development in this budget. So again, Metro Light and Metro Neo. These are the two types of metro railway facility which will be provided in tier 2 and tier 1 cities particularly. And this will also be very helpful to reduce the pollutions, to reduce the air pollution, because people will love to travel through this. This will be just like in the foreign countries, particularly in Switzerland or in the USA. Generally, people travel through this. You can have a look of this. This is your Metro Light. Okay. This is a Metro Neo. Okay. So this will be just like two different bosses are joined, and that size, and very good road infrastructure we see here. So again, power infrastructure. In power also, there is here particular development. What about the increase in expenditure in power? That is a separate thing. But the major development happened in this case. We are going for national hydrogen energy mission, whereby we'll be using hydrogen. So we'll not use petrol or diesel or coal for all these things. Rather, in future we'll go for hydrogen energy, and this will not have any pollutant in it. So what will happen? Our air will be getting a clean air. Our climatic condition will not be affected. Everything will be okay.
Sir,
Yeah, I know.
sorry.
I know, and
We
I
are
think,
running out of time.
yeah, yeah. I'm just saying
Yes,
one
yes,
in one end. I'm just winding up. Okay,
sure.
so we have in the ports and shipping waterways this time, 7 different ports have been identified, uh, particularly major ports they are, and the in the budget there is a provision of 2,000 crore for you can say modernizing those ports. Petroleum and natural gas, Ujjwala scheme will be going to another 1 crore beneficiaries. Already it has achieved 8 crore beneficiary, and it will be again going for another 1 crore. Then pipeline gas project will happen in Jammu and Kashmir also. So this is just to give a gift after the removal of Article 170. Okay. So then solar energy is another achievement. Okay, so that much only from my side. And I feel the budget has done a very good justice in that way, without charging more tax on the common people, but it has given a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Sorry for interfering in between for reminding.
It was just going to finish.
Yes. Okay, now the next speaker is our Professor Hardik Gandhi, HOD BBA. So you can start with
Yeah.
your.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, and very good evening to all the students and faculty members who have joined. Okay, so now I am coming in the slog overs, so I just have to bat very fast so that you all can be free on time. So I'll not take much time. Okay, but one or two things which I have to discuss. First, I want to discuss about the scrappage policy. Okay, which is very important for an automobile sector, because we all have seen that post COVID automobile sector has gone through various like gone through ups, very gone through the downs. Okay, so they, because the demand was not there, and obviously because automobile sector be car price is 5 lakh or more than that, so obviously the demand is going to be impacted. So this scrappage policy, when they say that your commercial vehicles need to go through the fitness test after 15 years, or the personal vehicles have to go through the fitness test after 20 years. So obviously we are seeing that, okay, 15 years or 20 years, it's okay. But if you see currently, okay, today, as of today, if you talk about, there are 75 lakh vehicles who are above the age of 20, okay, which are currently running on the road. Okay, the age is 20, more than 20 years. So if imagine, in the next, because this policy comes into effect from 1st April 2021. Okay, and imagine this 75 lakh vehicles have to go through these tests. Okay, and if they found that this vehicle is not fit, then you need to just throw it in the scrap. So, imagine what is going to be the demand for the automobile sector. Because if you talk about, personal vehicles or commercial vehicles, now you can't have that I own a car, now, I am riding a two-wheeler. So that is not going to happen. So if these out of 75 lakh, even 50% of the vehicles, they are not fit, next 2 or 3 years, there is going to be a huge demand for the automobile sector, because the normal demand where people are going to go and buy a car, that is going to be there. And apart from that, those who, vehicles are not fit, 75 lakh vehicles are above the age of 20. So if they are not fit, then obviously it is going to create a huge demand for the automobile sector. Another important thing what they have done with this policy is that they try to reduce, like Tushar sir has already talked about, the environment concerns, right? So the pollution from the vehicles is going to come down by 75% after the implementation of this policy. So obviously it is good for, because now you will have a cars, after 15 years or 20 years, you are taking that out from the road, and even if you get a fitness certificate, you need to pay a green tax. Okay, so that is also another important thing, that you need to pay the taxes to the government to run your vehicle after 15 years or 20 years, whatever the period applicable to you. So you need to pay that taxes also. So government is also getting that revenue. And the environment, 75% of the pollution, you can bring it down. So that is also another important thing. And third important point with this scrappage policy, which the government has done, is that, try to encourage the electrical vehicles. Because what will happen is that if your car, after 15 years or 20 years, okay, if your car is going into the scrap, then if new car is you are going to buy, then government can encourage you to go for electric vehicles, which will, obviously reduce the pollutions further. And, if more and more electric vehicle cars are there in the demand, then obviously the cost of manufacturing that car will also go down. So I think, that the government has done an extremely good job with the scrappage policy. Okay, yes, the details needs to be, they still have not come up, like, where will be the scrappage yard and all, and how, they are going to compensate those whose car is going to for a scrap, how it is going to be compensated. That details needs to be, because yet it is not out. Okay, but maybe I think from 1st of April the things will get clear. But I think it's an excellent step which is taken by the government, right, which is helping in clean environment also, and reviving the automobile sector, as well as the promoting the electric vehicle cars also. Another important thing, like, we come to the tax proposals, because there is not much in the direct and indirect tax proposal which is given. Like the government, the finance minister has kept the slab as it is. Okay, but still there are one or two things which she could have done. Okay, one is that they have kept the, because obviously if they have not charged anything from the taxpayer, that is also good for this kind of a budget. Because when you have passed through these kind of pandemics, suppose if earthquake have happened in 2002, or floods have happened, then obviously next year you will see that some cess is being collected. Okay, and the taxpayers money, they have to pay high more amount as a tax. But this year they have not done it, which is extremely good, that they have not. But one thing they could have done is that they could have reduced the ATC limit from 1.5 to 1 lakh, and could have increased the standard deduction to 1 lakh. So that could have put more money into the hands of taxpayers. Because see, if you are going to invest 1.5 lakh, that 1.5 lakh is anyway you are going to invest. Okay, you are not going to spend. So what you could have done, you could have not changed the structure, kept the structure as it is. But what they could have done, that instead of 1.5, you reduce it to 1.1 lakh and increase the standard deduction by 50,000. That would have given more money to the taxpayer, and that would have been converted into demand, because as sir has said that we have a very high marginal propensity to consume. So if that could have done, that could have stimulated the demand more. But obviously that is our lookout. But so that what they could have done. Another important thing, in the taxation proposal which government has done is the pre-filling of returns. Okay, this is another important thing, that till now only, like for example salaried people I'm talking about, that whatever salary I am getting, it is pre-filled. Whatever the if ATC investment I am doing, or the standard deductions, everything is pre-filled. Okay, but now even your investments, okay, or your capital gain tax details will also be pre-filled from now onward, from 2021-22. Okay, so now what happens, you can't omit the text. Even if you are trading in the stock market, you are buying and selling, then everything is going to be mapped with your PAN card and your Aadhaar number. Okay, so now what happens, you don't need to fill that details, that will be pre-filled. Okay, so you can't escape, you have to pay the taxes, because obviously the major problem was that how will I remember, capital gain tax calculation, short term, long term. Okay, and again it should be after 31st of January 2018, because okay, long term capital gain tax. So there are so much of confusion. So now to clear that confusion, what government has said that it will be pre-filled. So that is again very important thing. Another important thing they have done is on the tax on the dividend income. Like, because what happens is that the companies are declaring dividend in the month of, June, July, because once the audit is done and then AGM is held and then they declare the dividend. Okay, so now what government has said that the advance tax on dividend will be applicable only when the dividend is declared, because on 31st of March, you don't know how much dividend company is going to declare in the month of July. Okay, so obviously you won't be able to pay the tax, right? So that's why now what they have done is that advance tax on dividend income is going to be applicable only when the dividend is declared. Okay, till then you don't have to pay any any dividend or any tax on the dividend, right? Another important thing which they have done is that in the PF contribution, because what many people were doing in a government job and all, that high portion of their money they are putting it into PF. Okay, so but now what government, and then you are earning tax-free income. Okay, because if you want to invest, okay, in the PF, right, then you are getting 8.5% of tax-free income. So what they used to do, that they put that money into more money into the PF, and they earn high interest. So now what government has done, that till up to 2.5 lakh only, okay, it is tax-free. But if you are investing more than 2.5 lakh every year, it's a yearly limit, okay, then your interest will be chargeable. So that is another important thing, because they want to bring every investment alternative to the parity. Because what happens is that because of this advantage, people were investing more in this PF, especially salaried people, because they know that it is exempt. So on the maturity also this amount is exempt, so they are putting more money into that. Okay, but now because of this, it is at par, because if you put more than 2.5 lakh into the EP in the provident fund, then interest on that is also going to be chargeable. So I think these are the few important things, okay, which I think I have discussed. Okay, so I stop here because we already have surpassed the time. Okay, so over to you, ma'am. If anybody has any question or any doubt, they can ask.
Thank you so much, sir, for concluding it in a very short span of time. But it was a very good session. Thank you all four speakers for the wonderful session and for giving us the latest what actually the provisions have been made under the latest budget under the different sectors of the economy. Now goes with the attendees if they have any questions related to any point in the budget which they wanted to ask to any of our speakers. Yeah. Any questions?
Mama, I had a question.
Yeah, please.
So I did not understand the K-shape recovery, because when we study economy, or when we study, I mean, I'm a student, so I don't know much, but I think when we study economy, we study the GDP as a whole economy, right? So when we are studying K-shape economy, how can we differentiate sectors? I mean, it should be as a whole, right? So how do you explain K-shape recovery in those terms, in GDP terms?
Kishore sir, you.
Yeah. So Jay, when we talk of this recovery, there are different proposal in terms of post-COVID, what will be the recovery path, and the K-shaped recovery overall said that economy will recover post-COVID, but that recovery will not be common across all the sectors. There are few sectors which will recover very fast. So as of now, if you look at this budget, we can make out that infrastructure sector, okay, pharma sector, these are going to be recovering very fast. So there are few sectors who will recover very fast. At the same time, there are few sectors which continue to decline. They take more time before they bottom out and then recover. So there's a transition phase. Okay, and when we talk of sectoral growth perspective, so do not talk in terms of total. Total may GDP will be going by 11%. But when you compare the different sector, this kind of recovery is observed. This is a term coined by Raghuram Rajan, former RBI governor.
Thank you so much, sir. Cleared that out.
Himanshu, sir, there is one question related to bad bank
Yeah.
under the yes, sir.
Yes. I have seen the questions. Isn't the bad bank is a good idea? Definitely, it is a good idea. There is no issue about the bad bank. But the thing is that it should be properly work into the market. The concept of the bad bank, you are purchasing the non-performing assets from the banking institutions and the other financial institutions at a discounting price. So and if you are talking about the asset reconstructing companies and the asset management companies are there, but asset reconstructions companies, many privately asset reconstruction companies are available into the market, and as per the this IBC, that is we can say the insolvency and bankruptcy code. So according to this particular code and ERC, the bad bank is not a bad idea over there. It is good, but as we said that it should be properly work as per the expectations, uh, and it should not be violating the norms over there over a period of time. Because ultimately the objective is the whitewashing the defaulters from the balance sheets of the different banks. Because bad bank is single bank, which is handling the entire NPA of the different banks. Right? They are purchasing that. So the major role of the bad bank is to handle the biggest crunch of the fundings into the market, how to handle it and taken care. Right? If they are unable to recover these funds on a proper way from the market, even after the purchasing the on discounting price, it will be create the difficulties for to survive into the market. Right? So the idea is good. That is not an issue about the idea or the concept.
Thank you, sir. Any other question from the audience?
Nupunun, there is a question in the chat box.
Yes, sir. I just read it. Yes, sir. Ayan, he wants to ask something related to taxation. Hardik, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
So one question is there in the chat box. We can.
Okay. Yeah. So you see, no direct tax benefit has been given. See, direct tax benefit cannot be given to any of the industry. There may be certain tax advantage, which may have been tax holidays which may have been given. But now you can see that, when the economy is recovering, okay, then again, things are coming back to the normal. And you also need to see that what is the contribution of that particular sector to our GDP and whether, they need this kind of revival or not. So, because if you see that even airlines, okay, in the January itself, the airline traffic is, at the pre-COVID level. When pre-COVID level, whatever the traffic is today in the January month, if you see that air traffic is, equivalent to that pre-COVID era. Okay. So, I think when they have seen that, economic recovery, when, cases are going down and obviously people are, going to travel. And so obviously they think that, next 6 months, they are coming back to the normal. So, that is why because government cannot give the incentive to each and every, sector when they think that, because see, if you see the budget, the focus of the government is to generate the jobs. Like, they have given the focus on the infrastructure because that will generate the job. Okay. So I think that was the focus of the government, and they have, keep that throughout the budget. So they have not given any concessions to the airline or other industry, I think.
Thank you so much, sir. Any other questions from the attendees? I think yeah, yeah, Mani.
So there was this point where there was privatization, which was going to come into play, correct? So is privatization is going to be beneficial, and plus duties on parts of mobile and automobiles give rise to homegrown products? And my second question was, government went a step ahead and increased the allocation for MSP, correct? Because the farmers had the fear that the MSP system is going to be dismantled. That's what all their protest was all about. So has the middle class men suffered because there was no benefit which the middle class men or the family will receive? There was no relaxation for them in terms of anything. So has the government taken a big step for the farmers at the cost of the middle class families?
Yeah. So your question is to?
So I do not have is anyone who could answer.
Yeah. Sir, your mic is mute, I think.
Yeah. Let me answer the part of it. When you talk of privatizations, okay, with the globalization getting momentum over a period of time, privatization is the only option because it's all about efficient allocation of resources. So some resources managed by the public sector and the same resources managed by the private sector, it generates a different return. So in terms of creating efficiency, you need to have the privatization. And this government, since they came into the power, they had a vision of minimum governance, maximum governance. Okay, so minimum government, maximum governance. So with that objective, we assume that privatization is going to be the process. But the issue with that process is you put up a certain target as part of disinvestment or allowing private sector to be venturing into that public sector domain. But to what extent do you achieve the target? Because suppose for this budget they have kept a 1.75 lakh as a target. Now, in spite of stock market so booming and so doing well, they couldn't generate that much of revenue last year. So we have that suspicion that if they couldn't generate that much of revenue through the disinvestment process, from where do they get this revenue? Okay, so that fiscal deficit target which they have proposed may shoot up if they cannot generate this much of revenue. So that when you talk of disinvestment, this thing has to be taken care of. Privatization, in terms of privatization, budget has given a specific provision that rather than privatizing the entire, budget has a provision of selling of unused resources. In the sense, most of the public sector unit have lot of land available to them. So government said, we'll sell this land and we'll generate the revenues. Okay, so in that context, this has to be the privatization. Government is going to, and we don't have any other choices for that as such. In terms of MSP, the data which were revealed during the parliament, they were talking about number of farmers that they have benefited through MSP. Okay, but still, when you look at the discussion that is happening or the border, Delhi border, okay, those farmers are still not happy because government, they are expecting some clear picture from the government side. We are an agrarian economy, and in country like us, you cannot withdraw the support directly. So they have a fear in terms of government withdrawing the support in terms of either later on the subsidies, okay, or maybe the minimum support price. The good part with the budget is government has made it very clear that we'll continue with the minimum support price, and that support price will be 1.5% of the cost. Because that's a good part, but there are much more things to be done in that exercise. Because again, if you have heard the initial budget speech during this pandemic, something that have protected India, that was an agriculture sector. Agriculture sector still recorded a positive growth. Okay, so when somebody is performing, that sector expects certain kind of reward, and that kind of reward was not coming up. That create some sort of distress among the people involved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now, I think, there any more questions? Okay, we'll conclude the session over here. There is one more question from Umangini. recently in an economic survey, the Chief Advisor of India has suggested to print more money to solve the problem related to cover capital expenditure and fiscal deficit. So is it a good idea to solve the problem? Because more printing of money can lead to inflation. So
Yeah, Umangini, when you look at the economic survey, it was not directly proposed that it should be printing of money. It's about raising the resources, and what economic survey chief economic advisor Subramanian has suggested that during this kind of pandemic situation where you cannot raise the resources from the public because public is overburdened because of pandemic, the best option is go beyond your target, because Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act has kept a cap of 3% fiscal deficit. And the economic survey said in this kind of once a while situation, once a century kind of situation, you cannot stick to the target. Okay, the target is supposed to be overshoot, which government has done. Okay, so in this kind of situation, that fiscal deficit is supposed to go up. But what is more important from that perspective is how do you manage the resources? You manage the fiscal deficit through borrowing, as we said. That a lot of money is proposed from the borrowing, or maybe from internal borrowing or external borrowing, small savings, or even borrowing from Reserve Bank of India. But that may result into inflation if that is not supported by corresponding increase in supply. Your inflation only will happen when your increase in money supply is not matching with increase in GDP. So if that is balanced, inflation will not be a big issue, because even this budget has said that nominal GDP growth is expected to be around 14.5%, and real GDP growth is expected to be around 11%. So between the difference between these two, ideally is inflation, which is expected to be in the manageable range of around 4%. Thank you.
thank you, sir. Okay. Now I hope like no more questions. Then we can conclude the session. Okay. Thank you so much for our speakers for conducting such a great session on panel discussion of budget. And thanks to Dr. Dipendra Sharma sir for organizing such a great session. I am very thankful for everyone, for the attendees to attending the session, and the students for asking such a great questions to our speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more thing, just a minute. If you could announce that tomorrow we are having a session. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes.
sir. We are hearing.
If you could announce the session that tomorrow we are having a session from the students.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And if you could announce that they can join us at 11 o'clock, and same session will be conducted by our UG students. So
Yes, sir.
you can just announce it to the.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Students, we are having a session from undergraduate students, that is BBA students, tomorrow at 11 a.m. related to this budget session only. You all are requested to join that session too.
Thank you, Nupur ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Thank you,
Thank
madam.
you.
Thank you.
Fantastic session. Congratulations. Very great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Great.